All right, good morning. Let me go ahead and call the work session of the Mayor and Council for September the 13th to order. I think there are is there some modifications to this work session agenda? Are there two items that need to be added?
Just that, the one that I know of is the ordinance of the heavy trucks that David just said.
Is it on here anywhere?
Not at all.
Okay.
You've got the,
All right. Yeah, let's see. Where would you like to put that? It seems to be the default, right? Amendment to Article 3, Heavy Motor Vehicles, Routes, Code of Ordinances. That's too long to write down, but, so let's go down to governing body, which, let's make it number 4, and we'll call that the amendment to Article 3. And then, David, you had an update that you wanted to do. Where do you want to put that at? Number 5 under governing body as well?
Yes, I put that as 5.
Yeah.
Governing body is just a report on the process for the distilled spirits licenses.
Yep, okay. And then, so number 5 would be update distilled spirits. Okay. All right, that being the case, we will make those two changes and we'll go ahead and get started. So this morning, we have a special guest. Ms. Karen Handel is here from Carroll Tomorrow and the Carroll County Chamber of Commerce. She's going to come up and make a little presentation to us regarding the work that Carroll Tomorrow does, and we welcome her.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you as well to members of council. Villa Rica is a very important gateway for our county, and I thought what I would do is give a little bit of an overview so you can, let's see, how am I, there we go. All right, there we go. I want to talk about the program of work, but the first thing I thought, and the presentation is in the packet that Haley just handed out to you. I thought that would be helpful for you. Sometimes it's a little bit confusing, the chamber versus Carroll Tomorrow. So I'm a person, I need to have pictures to help explain things sometimes. So through a lot of different efforts, I put together this little chart. As president and CEO, I actually oversee both organizations. The Chamber is Carroll County's largest business organization. We now have 624 members. That is an all-time high for the Chamber, so that is good. It is funded through dues and sponsorships. We have a board of directors, and of course our members. The team on the Chamber side is Ryan Owenby, Kayla Lambert, and Paula Eason, who does membership sales. Also, we have an office manager admin. That's Christy. She and I work on both sides of the organizations. Carroll Tomorrow is laser beam on economic development, and it is really just it's a two-man show, a two-woman show, Haley and myself, and Haley does a great job. She's here with us today. Carroll Tomorrow is funded through a 5-year capital campaign. We have a board of directors, and then we have a council of investors. So everyone who invests even 1 penny into Carroll Tomorrow is part of that council of investors, and then our larger investors are part of the board of directors. And again, as I said, we are laser beam focused on economic development. We have 44 investors in Carroll Tomorrow. 12 are new. We focus on existing industry. We are a one-stop resource for prospects, for companies that are looking to move or relocate here in Carroll County or expand their companies. And we work very closely with the county and all of our cities, as well as the state, in coordinating when they have prospects coming in. In addition to the Chamber and Carroll Tomorrow, Haley and I also do the back-end administration for 3 development authorities. The Villa Rica Development Authority, which your chairman there is Chairman John Mount, then also the Development Authority of Carroll County, as well as the Carrollton Payroll Development Authority. So kind of 5 entities there. And then also workforce development. I want to stop right here and pause to say thank you to the mayor and to each of you for the city of Villa Rica's support of Carol Tomorrow. It is incredibly impactful, your support and willingness to be part of the team. Mr. Mayor McDougall will join the board, which is a small board. The Carol Tomorrow board is less than 30 people, and it really is driven by the investments into the organization. So when we have our meeting, our board meeting at the end of October, that's when we'll bring you on and we'll get you that date. This is a list of the various investors. You can see that it does run across the county, and one thing that I tried to be very intentional about is to make sure that our investors really did reflect the large employers, our main, I call it the big four. Mayor McDougall has heard me say that. The big four with our jurisdictions would be City of Villa Rica, City of Carrollton, City of Temple, and then Carroll County, because as we look to manage the growth that's coming our way, those four entities and the leadership there at the table, they are the ones that really will shape the future direction of our county. For our specific program of work in the area of economic development in terms of attracting new companies, we have had a great uptick in the interest in Carroll County. I think it's important to note that several folks in the economic development world, they look at Carroll County and West Georgia as kind of the final frontier, if you will, for the state of Georgia. So we know we have to get ready. In addition to that, we spend a lot of time and effort supporting our existing industry. While new companies moving here, that's always the shiny, bright, shiny object, right? And it's fun to read about it in the paper and all of that. But the reality is over 80% of the new jobs created in our community are coming from our existing companies. So job number one has got to be supporting those companies and making sure that we have a community in which they can grow and thrive so that we can maintain those jobs and help them deal with their issues. This year, we also embarked on a branding initiative and a PR campaign. And part of that, and it's not for Carol Tomorrow, it is for Carroll County. And one thing that just with the combination of things, change of leadership, the pandemic, everything, our county had a little bit fallen off of the radar screen, and we needed to kind of get ourselves back out there when it comes to being top of mind for the state of Georgia, but also as we work to attract retail and restaurants as well. Sometimes if you don't ask, nobody thinks about you. So we did a series of focus groups. Janet participated. Where'd Janet go? In the focus groups, and we had a number of folks from Villa Rica as part of that and made sure that it really was a countywide representative. We did, I know there was the Douglas County Spotlight that Villa Rica was part of, and then again the Carroll County Spotlight, which had not been done in 2 years, and that was very, very successful. Georgia 500 is a publication of the top 500 business leaders in the state of Georgia. And I think it's rather amazing and impressive for our community that 5 business leaders from just Carroll County are on that list. And Carol Tomorrow does have a full page ad in there recognizing the great leadership that we have. And I thank the city of Villa Rica for partnering with us on that. We will be doing Business Georgia, a full page ad there, as well as a creative editorial, I think they call them advertorials now, in that publication, and it will go to nearly 50,000 site selection experts across the state to really and the country to make sure that we put our message forward about how great it is to put your company and locate your family to Carroll County. And then we will also be doing a thank you ads in the Times Georgian and West Georgia Woman magazine thanking all of our investors. On the workforce development front, We just completed an engagement with the University of Georgia's Carl Vinson Institute to analyze our labor shed. And one of the great things about our county is that we draw from such a significant and bigger labor shed than a lot of other counties. We can draw all the way from 75 west, East Alabama, in, north down, and south up, giving us a labor pool of 1 million plus. The other really encouraging thing, 35% of Carroll County residents actually work in Carroll County. And the average, according to UGA, is 20%. So that really speaks volumes, too, about how robust our community is and the vitality. We did a new website, and we are in the process of updating all of our collateral materials so that we have something very professional and reflective of our county as a whole when we have prospects visiting, and then, of course, ongoing support to the development authorities. Very quickly on the landscape, our existing industry expansions are driving the county's growth. We are increasingly on the state's radar screen. While mega sites, those 3,000, 5,000 acre sites are sort of all the rage right now, the reality is for the prospects in the pipeline for the state, we need 100 to 1,000 acre industrial and business sites. And if for our community, that seems the feedback that I've gotten from many of you, that's a little bit of a better fit for us than a 5,000 acre mega site. And we just need to work really hard through our development authorities to begin to build that those properties online. Inflation has put a pause on some projects, but a pause, not a stop, meaning that they've delayed versus pulled the plug. Top issues for us are product, making sure that we have land and buildings in our pocket to show, housing, and workforce. Existing industry expansions, these are some of the lists. You'll see that they are all over the county. That's 1,000 plus jobs, folks, in the next 12 to 18 months, just new jobs, just from existing industry expansions. That's not the open positions that are currently trying to be filled at companies, but just more on top of that with expansions. 5 new companies have solidified projects here, Project Batman, Project Hopper. One is in Carrollton, one is in, no, both of the two are in Carrollton, but Wayne Davis, Caros, and Flex, TC, those are all new companies that are in the process of moving over to Villa Rica. We have had 27 prospect RFIs since January. That is a lot, and 9 site visits. So with that, I will stop, and I just want to say thank you again for the opportunity to be here and for your support of me. I've very much enjoyed my ability to work with Mayor McDougall, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, well, thank you for that presentation. Council, does anyone have any questions for Ms. Handel? Nobody?
Well, if you, as you look through the materials in your packet, if something occurs to you and you do have a question, please don't hesitate to call me. My cell is out there. That is probably the easiest way to get me, and I'm always available if you have any questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to item A2, amendment to special requirements for packaged distilled spirits licenses. David, does this item require a public hearing?
No.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Coming before you today is an amendment to our recently enacted ordinance dealing with packaged distilled spirits licenses. As we were going through the process of accepting our first applications, we realized that there was an uncertainty there as to how we would handle situations where we had an opened district that came available, and whether or not we would just accept applications on a first-come, first-served basis, or whether we would handle it the same way we handled the initial process, which is to establish a period by which anybody who wanted to apply needed to apply to be considered. And that's what this particular this amendment does, is to establish that procedure to say that if we do have an open district, that the council will establish a deadline for which people must submit applications to be considered for that license. That's what this does.
Okay, council, you have any questions for David on this item? Okay, is there any objection to making this consent item number 1? It seems real clear to me. Okay, let's go to A3. This is intergovernmental agreement for special local option sales tax distribution, Douglas County. This is also David. Go ahead.
This is the final agreement that was negotiated among the municipalities and Douglas County for the distribution of the local option sales, special purpose local option sales tax, which, if approved in a referendum in November, would collect special purpose local option sales tax for another 6 years in Douglas County. You can see from that agreement that Villa Rica's percentage is 5.04%, which is an increase from our amount that we currently receive under the dying SPLOST, which was 4.89%. The increase came about as a result of our increase in population relative to the rest of Douglas County in the last census. But this is as good as agreement as we will get, and so I recommend that we pass it.
Yeah, so I agree with that this is, this is better than what we had before, but it is due to the increase in population. I have a question, though. In this particular IGA, have we identified the projects?
We have identified the category of projects. We have not identified specific projects. There is a breakdown in the agreement as to what percentage of our receipts we are devoting to different categories of infrastructure.
So if we approve this agreement, have we locked into those categories?
Yes.
And at this time, remind me, they were required to submit these categories already to go onto the ballot.
Correct.
So there's no time to make a change, even if we wanted to make a change at this point.
No.
Because they ran it right up to within 1 day.
Correct.
It literally was 1 day.
Right.
And then they had to get it over to the election supervisor to go on the
Right.
ballot. Okay. All right, council, do you have any questions? Okay. If there are no questions, is there any objection to making this consent item number 2? All right, no objections. All right, David, you got the floor today. A4, amendment to Article 3. This is with regard to the heavy motor vehicles, routes, and code of ordinances. Go
Right.
ahead.
And this was an item that was discussed at the recent council retreat. There is a desire, I perceive a desire by the council to toughen up our ordinances as it relates to heavy trucks in the city. There's been a lot of discussion about heavy trucks on Punkintown Road specifically. And I was asked to draft up an ordinance dealing with that. Well, I looked back in our existing ordinance, and we already have an ordinance that I think covers what we need to cover as it relates to regulation of heavy trucks on non-truck routes in the city. The only real problem I saw was that our existing ordinance specified a penalty of first offense of a $100 fine and subsequent offenses of $250. That seems to be a little light to catch the attention of violators of that particular ordinance. So rather than trying to redraft the whole ordinance, I just simply redrafted the section dealing with the penalties. You have two versions of it, two options to pick from. The first one I drafted just simply changed the penalties from $100 to $250 for a first offense. and then $250 to $500 for subsequent offenses. So that was my first option. Upon getting some feedback about that, I came up with a second option, which simply allows the judge of the municipal court to impose up to the maximum penalty under our city charter, which is a $1,000 fine. Now, I'm not expecting that a $1,000 fine would be imposed upon a first offense, but depending upon the facts and circumstances of the case, it could be. And certainly for any subsequent offenses, we would hope that the judge would impose a even greater fine if we do have a repeat offender. So that you got two choices to pick from if you choose to approve either one of them.
So, yeah, we've talked about this extensively, and we certainly talked about it in the retreat, and we've talked about
Right.
it in other settings as well. And I think we'll take this into the regular meeting irrespective, because I want to get this into the packet as well. But I'm thinking, I'm thinking the option one, but to also add language to allow that discretion to the judge on the $1,000 anyway. I mean, I sort of like the idea of the first offense, $250, the second offense is $500, subsequent offense is $500, but the judge should have latitude to reach that $1,000 mark if it becomes obvious that that is a repeat offender and they're just choosing to pay the $500. I mean, I don't know how often that could really happen. I mean, but it could happen. It'd be hard for me to see that people go, yeah, $500 is not a big deal. I'm gonna make this shortcut.
Right.
But that's kind of what I'm thinking. Anybody else? Ms. McPherson?
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is I have a few constituents that are truckers, and I had one, actually, I haven't had time to follow up on this thoroughly, but sent me some of the legal help that's out there to try, that basically gets truckers out of these. And so I can pass those along to you, but they're basically, they have, certain legal groups set up to try to help them get out of paying fines. And so I don't know what else we can do about that. Probably nothing, but just be aware that it's out there. And that may be the reason why some of them would even continue if they're finding that they're able to get it dismissed or whatever. I don't know, percentage-wise, I have no idea how that plays into what's going on. Just that it's out there and it's used by truckers.
All right, Mr. Carter.
I would like to see a option, actually a third option would change the 250 to 500 and the 500 to 1,000. So first offense is 500, any offense thereafter, repeat offense is 1,000. I'd like to see that option on here.
So, David, okay,
Yeah,
go ahead and talk
I was
about that a
gonna-
little bit.
My response to that is that it's very difficult for us to sit here and envision every set of circumstances that could arise. There could be a situation where some trucker inadvertently gets on that road in an innocent way. I mean, again, I can't surmise every particular fact situation, but to impose a mandatory $500 fine on the first offense, I could envision circumstances that might seem unfair in a court setting. People make mistakes when they're driving, and to set a mandatory fine that's inflexible, really takes away the ability of the court to determine whether or not there are some extenuating circumstances or some aggravating circumstances. If you have a trucker who walks into court saying, yeah, I knew it was a truck zone, and I just said, well, too bad, I'm doing it. You need to have the judge to have the ability to come down on them as harshly as possible. And by the same token, if you got a truck driver who comes in and says, I had a sick person with me in the car and we were simply trying to get to the hospital as quick as we could, and I made a mistake turning down there, maybe that doesn't justify a $500 fine. So that's why I try to preach a little bit of flexibility to deal with the circumstances of the situation.
Okay, anybody else? Okay. So I don't want to overly complicate it because I'd like to get this through tonight. and going back and trying to redraft something different doesn't seem. I just think it will be an unnecessary delay. We might not even be able to get it done today. Is there any thoughts among the council? Could you talk just a little bit about these two options and maybe the modification that I talked about on the first one, which really just said we'd also allow the judge to go up to $1,000 on subsequent offenses. That was the only change to that. So the first offense will be $250, which I think is incredibly stout. And then subsequent offenses would be $500, but the judge would have latitude up to $1,000. Is there any thoughts on that? Because we need to have David prepare something so that we can vote on it tonight. Oh, Ms. McCoy?
I was going to say I like the flexibility of the $1,000 option because it could be a legitimate reason they went down that way, or they didn't know the area or something, and they don't need to be as heavily. Maybe the judge could use some leeway. I like the idea of having flexibility in the ordinance.
And I like having that first offense number, which is what really makes option one stand out more. Anybody else?
Could we do it where it's like the first offense is this and the second offense can go up to
We could do that as
$1,000?
well.
Yeah, I can draft that up in that fashion so that you set a minimum for the first offense and then leave some leeway after that.
Okay.
I don't know the judge, but we did this before. If you remember one time when Mr. Hubbard was the judge, where we changed a bunch of the fine amounts, and even though I don't know the guy, if I'm him, I want to be the judge, right? And so, from my perspective, if it said $250 on the first, you've handcuffed him some, but you sort of taken a position on the whole issue, right? Which makes sense. And then it could say, and subsequent is $250 or more. The 1,000 is a state cap, right? And if we don't put that in there and the state changes it, then we don't have to change it, right? And then he can use his discretion, because that's what he's the judge for, which is what David is saying. And David is a judge, remember?
Right.
So when David is speaking from a perspective that we don't have.
Plus, if you've ever sat in court and watched things, and I don't mean TV court, it's nice to give him that discretion.
I think
Because mitigating circumstances can come into play, and one situation may be very different from another, and I like giving him that leeway.
So let me see if there's any objection to this. So if you look at what I'm going to call option one, but the way he's got it titled is option 500, then was there any objection to making this language say violation of this article shall be punishable by the imposition of a $250 fine for the first offense? Repeat offenders may be punished by the imposition of fines up to $1,000 for each offense. Is there any objection to that language?
part of the state limit.
Or,
I know, but it gets
or
in
state maximum, whatever. I mean,
If the state maximum were to change, we'd probably have to change a bunch of our ordinances, so I'm comfortable just leaving it at $1,000
Okay.
right now.
all right, if there's no objection to that, then will you draft that?
Yes, I'll
for
have
us?
you that before the meeting tonight.
All right, very good.
Can
Thank
I-
you.
can I add
Miss-
Just one other thing real quick. With the max amount, wouldn't that come into play in the case of we had a really bad accident and because a truck was on there and injured somebody, that's something else they would face as far as a citation, right?
I mean, that's the maximum amount of any traffic citation that we issue. It can't be more than $1,000 fine.
Right, but it would come into play also, not just that they're on that road, but the fact that they were involved in an accident. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It'd be an additional penalty onto if they had some other driving infraction.
yes.
Yes?
It's not uncommon for the police to write as many potential tickets as they can for offenses that take place.
Okay, let's move on to B, Community Development. Our first item up is Ron.
You had the report,
Oh,
number five there.
I'm sorry. All right, you get to do another one,
Yeah,
David.
and I'll be very brief on this. I just wanted to make a brief report on the process of the issuance of our licenses under our newly enacted distilled spirits package license. We have gone through the first round of applications for the 4 districts that are available, and through that process, we did identify 3 qualified applicants out of the 15 that applied. The other 12 were simply disqualified because they didn't comply with the application requirements. They didn't submit surveys showing their proximity to churches, schools, etc., or they were in the wrong zoning districts for various reasons. But we did have 3 qualified applicants in District 1, 3, and 4. We did not have any qualified applicants in District 2. So the next step in the process will be to get those 3 qualified applicants to complete all of their application forms for the licenses, and then those would be again checked, and they'd have to go through background checks, etc. They have to post their properties, advertising where the stores are going to be, and then I expect that to come back to you probably in the October meeting.
Okay, any questions? All right, now we'll move on. Ron. So this item is going to require a public hearing, so we're going to just briefly discuss this morning. This is ALT-01-22, extension of rezoning for 55 and 63 Goldworth Road. This is better known as the Avamore Project, RA-06-18. Ron, go ahead.
Yes. Good morning, Mayor and Council. So this item is an item that we've had annually since this project was passed back in 2018, but this is for an extension of the Avamore Development's zoning, so they can continue with their PUD zoning. So I've listed the different conditions on the cover sheet that has been agreed to and amended over time from 2018 until now. And the staff's recommendation at this time is for a denial, and that's just based off of the highlighted items that are not completed or completed sufficiently or have been submitted to us.
Okay, that was a brief introduction.
Working on
Does
that.
the council have any questions about this item at this time? Yeah, there'll be a public hearing this evening, so we'll take up more there. Tom, does anybody want to add anything at the work session? Okay. All right. Thank you, Ron. We'll take this up in a public hearing tonight. Let's do B2, VA-12-22, 105 West Church Street. Variance to permit residential units on the ground level in the commercial mixed-use zone. There'll also be a public hearing on this item tonight. Go ahead, Ron. Just briefly introduce this item.
Sure. So this is at 105 West Church Street. This is the CMU zone, commercial mixed use. The applicant, Jay Davis, is requesting a variance from section 3.11, subsection 4 of the zoning ordinance, which requires residential units to be constructed on the upper floors and commercial on the lower floors. And the applicant is looking to have the residential and the commercial located on the bottom floor of this one-story building. This is the only story. So they're just looking to change space around within that, and also the secondary building on site would be used for commercial space. The applicant's proposal can't be constructed without the variance as it currently is indicated on their schematic drawings.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions for Ron? All right, Ms. McPherson.
I was just going to say, this one is really helpful if you go through pretty much almost every detail in the packet. There's a few attachments you don't need to look at. Maybe I was trying to like the title, that sort of thing. But everything that plays into our decision-making, I drove back here yesterday just to look at it again. Because a lot of times you're just looking at it while you're passing by and you're not thinking about it in these terms. That's helpful. This is helpful. I did look at the email that came yesterday that had the pictures on a smaller scale, or the sketches and everything. But the criteria that we use to make the for variance, the criteria you're supposed to look at. So it's just really helpful to be thorough on this.
Okay, anybody else? All right, there'll be a public hearing on this item tonight, so we will take it up in more detail then. Thank you, Ron.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Taylor, Lena Taylor, item C1, modification of Allied Plan document. Would you come on up?
Good morning, Mayor and Council. We are here to present a review for our benefits modification as it relates to the colonoscopy testing. And I have Wendell Strickland here of Strong Side Solutions, who will explain further. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor, Councilor. How are y'all today?
Morning.
Every year, your staff and our team work very hard to make improvements on your benefit plans. And so this year we had asked to lower the age for colonoscopies and mammograms. Well, as it turns out, we can't lower the age for colonoscopies because it's part of the ACA and the administrator can't actually administrate that change. However, we can administrate the lowering of the age of the mammogram. So we're still trying to improve the benefits. What we're asking for is a modified recommendation that we do lower the mammograms, but we keep the colonoscopies at 45.
Okay. Let me take a look at this. It doesn't sound like we have much of an option anyway. Does council have any questions for Wendell or for Lena? All right, Ms. McCoy.
Yeah. I'm
What
sorry.
what are you lowering the age of the mammogram down to? From what to what?
So currently the ACA, and this year the ACA actually made an improvement from 50 to 45.
Okay.
So all we're trying to do is improve that just a little bit. So we asked for both of them to be lowered to 35, but the administrator cannot administrate the colonoscopies at 35 because it's hard-coded in their system and it's part of their ACA. So they moved it down to the 45, but they can't actually administer the 45 age bracket. However, since mammograms is on a different platform and it's less mandated by the ACA and has a different age band on it, we can administer the 35. So that's really it.
Okay, what if, like, for colonoscopies, there's a family history or something?
That it doesn't change any of that.
Okay.
Those are still, everything is same. We
Okay.
were just trying to make an improvement over an improvement, and one we just can't administer. That's
Okay.
all. Yeah.
And just to explain, as far as, so when someone does, give their health history with their family, with their primary care, one of the things that you do list that if you have colon cancer in your family, and based on that, then your doctor will either subscribe, you actually have that testing, based on your family history. So that, will still continue.
Okay, Ms. McPherson?
Yeah, Lena, I don't know if you can do this or not, but I know from years of experience of dealing with insurance, there were times we're going one place for, an ultrasound or whatever, MRI, could have a vast difference in cost. Now, when someone has no skin in the game and it's covered 100%, people tend to not think about it, or it's Medicare, it's automatically a certain thing. However, because of the fact that we're self-insured, we reap a benefit when we save money. It benefits us, and the city as a whole. So I'm wondering if there's any way to provide for employees and that sort of thing, maybe just the local area, maybe some price comparisons between going a few different places locally. I mean, Douglas County, it's 5-10 minutes maybe there. We've got Tanner right here, and just do a little comparison. And the only other thing as far as levity is, I have a feeling there probably won't be too many employees that are upset that you can wait for your colonoscopy for another 5 or 10 years or something. We probably won't lose anybody over that one. So.
I agree. So in regards to your first question, we can definitely, though, we do have the LI plan document in place, and it's approved, if it's approved by council. Wendell and I are always at the ready to ensure that we are ensuring that we offering the best services to our employees at a cost, because we understand that our community, our citizens, they are bearing, the cost of the employees. So we're making sure that we are cost effective. So yes, we can definitely.
So we can get a little comparison about local areas on something like that?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, we can look at that. Yes.
Okay.
Facilities, hospital-based, freestanding, yes, we can get a list of pricing.
Great, okay.
Yeah, and the employee can call and say, hey, this is the procedure I need to have done, recommend somewhere, right? And we get feedback on that. Here are some places near you, they have really low rates of, what do you call it?
MRIs, CAT scans.
Recidivism or whatever,
Yes.
where you have to go back more than once. I've done that, and it's been great. I've gotten really good advice from them.
So the employee should call you, Lena,
Yes,
on that?
so definitely. So one thing. So we are a two-person team, myself and Tiffany. But but we definitely try our best, to offer the services to our employees. And our employees know that we have an open door policy, and they can definitely, give us a call if they have any questions or concerns. Even with our prescriptions, we have what's called Angel prescriptions, Angel Care. Am I correct? Is I saying it right?
Angel
Okay. Angel RX, where that ensures that our employees, depending on what type of prescriptions that they have, and if it's a I forget what kind of prescription that you would call it. If
Well,
it's
like a
a
brand name or
brand name,
maintenance.
right? So they are able to get prescriptions at cost. So so we do have the benefit enrollment booklet that they can avail themselves to, but they also have Tiffany and I, that would definitely help them walk through any concerns or issues that they have.
Well, one additional resource maybe that Tom was talking about too is the employees can just simply call Allied. And as they call Allied, they'll say, hey, my name is Wendell Strickland, and I'm going to have a colonoscopy or a mammogram or a MRI or a CAT scan. And they will actually guide the employees so they know in the particular area that your employees live, based on their zip codes, what providers have the best price as well as the best outcome. So they have that steerage already. They just have to make a phone call. And then, of course, there's always resources here as well.
Yeah, and I just mentioned, I'm not talking about, hey, get me the best deal on a surgeon.
You're right.
That's a little bit more where you're looking for somebody, but some of these basic tests.
But
Okay,
they have
thanks.
quality metrics on all the providers. So that's always available to your employees.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. So essentially the answer to the question from Ms. McCoy is that you're lowering the mammograms from 50 to 35, and there's no change right now on the colonoscopies because that's not permitted, right?
That's right.
Okay.
And we just want to.
Is there any objection to making this consent number 3? Oh, okay.
I thought I heard a while ago we had already brought it down to 45 on the mammogram. We're dropping from 45 to 35.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
So it's colonoscopies at 45, mammograms at 35.
Now, we changed it from 45 to 35 on mammogram.
On mammograms, but we can't change it from 45 to 35 on the colonoscopies.
I understand. I wrote down that you said that it was currently 50.
Originally 50.
The ACA this year brought everything down to 45 for both
It was
mammograms.
50.
And it was 50.
It was 50.
This year they moved it to 45, but we want to move it to 35. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any objection to making this consent number 3? Okay. All right. Thank you, Wendell.
All right,
Thank you, Lena.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Let's go to Public Works, D1. Charlie? Purchase of 3 new 2023 trucks for water distribution and wastewater treatment plant. And Charlie, I apologize. You asked me to come by and look at this, and I didn't get a chance to do
That's
that.
fine.
So, but I did review it in the packet, and I do understand what you're talking about.
Good.
But go ahead and present it.
I'm going to run down with a couple of reasons why we're doing this ahead of the budget being approved, because of the economic times we're in with vehicles right now. But we have 3 trucks I need to try to replace this year, or the next budget year, due to their age and heavy use. They vary from 17 to 21 years old. One is for the wastewater treatment plant, 2 are for the water and sewer distribution departments. Ford has announced that their Super Duty truck plants are only going to operate for the 2023 model year from January 1st through the end of March for the 2023 year. So normally they run 9 months, but we're only going to get 3 months production on these trucks. So that's why I'm bringing this to you before the budget has actually been adopted yet. No pricing from Ford or Georgia State contract has even been announced or given a date of when that will be yet for the 2023 models. But I've been working closely with our local dealer who I'm going to try to do this with, and we have a pretty good plan here. However, the 2023 Ford Super Duty truck order banks were scheduled to open the 15th of this month. They've now moved that back at least 2 weeks, and it may be up to 3 to 4 weeks before we actually have pricing that is fair of what it will actually be. But the best chance of us being able to get any trucks this year is to place the order on opening day, because with this 90 days of production, those order banks will fill up within 2 or 3 days. And Carroll County ordered 20-some trucks last year and didn't get a single one of them. And so that's why I'm trying to get ahead of this, and I want to be, and Bart Don Rich has worked with me closely on this, and on the day they open, if we get this through, we'll get this order in, and we'll get a good price on things. I just don't have an exact number. What I'm asking for is to see if we can get these 3 trucks approved with a not-to-exceed number of $222,876, and that's for the 3 trucks. These are heavy trucks, and that includes the bodies on 2 of them. We will be moving the body from one of the trucks on the crane truck onto the new truck because the crane body's fairly new and it's in good shape. This includes all the labor for the installation of the bodies and the purchase of those bodies too. I've spent considerable time on this with Don Rich and with Ford, and this is the best method we can move forward with at this time with the way the market is. And we can go through the specifics of the trucks if you want to, but basically what I'm looking for is none of this money will be spent until the trucks are in our hands. I mean, not one dime will leave the city until everything is here. But I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. I'm going to let Danny finish this out.
Sure.
I got to go take a call. I got a call from my kid, and I'll be back in a minute. My Mayor Pro Tem has disappeared, but Danny's done it most recently, so go ahead and finish up.
Okay, yeah, I noticed that this is included in the fiscal year 23 proposed budget. These items are,
Yes, sir.
and that starts next month. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else have a question?
I do.
Tom?
Yeah, the only thing, Charlie, I don't see in here that I would have liked is for this to say that you're not actually going to make the purchase unless it's in the budget.
Yeah.
Right? So can you add that? Because what we're asking you to do is give us a not to exceed amount, assuming that you're going to put it in the budget. But if you don't put it in the budget, then if I'm you, then I don't want this to get ordered, right?
So what you're asking us to do is on the motion, if included in the fiscal year 23 budget, amend the motion to include that. Is that what you're asking?
He's thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of where to stick it in there. I mean, we can clearly do it. Let me find a good place. That sentence that says all at a not to exceed price of $222,876, and then I'd put a parenthesis that says if included in the 2023 budget, close parenthesis.
Can't we do it in the first line and move to approve the purchase, comma, provided it is included in the FY23 budget?
Yeah, that's the same thing.
Okay.
We'll get it reworded in a final form, so
All right.
I'll have it to you tonight.
Anybody else have any questions? Any objection to making this item?
We need to
We
vote
can't.
tonight.
We're gonna modify it. Never mind. So we'll skip over that one. All right, next item is city manager.
What do we do with that?
We're gonna modify it to make sure it's in the budget before it's approved, so could we modify it for the
Okay,
meeting?
hang on. When will the opening, do you have a date yet on when these orders
It
will
was
open?
gonna be the 15th of this month. They've moved it back at least 2 to 3 weeks now because they're still trying to get all their ducks in a row too, for lack of a better word. But it's still the supply chains. They're trying to figure out exactly how long they're gonna be able to operate still.
Okay.
But the reason for doing this early is just that on day one when they open, Bart
wanna be
will
ready
call
to
me
do
and
it.
we'll sit down to go.
So, and listen, I know a thing about this because I actually got rid of my truck, my King
Right.
Ranch, and I've been driving this little bitty truck, and I thought I was only going to have to drive it until about the 15th of August because I was going to order me a new car, and then they didn't open up the ordering,
Right.
and then it went weeks, and now I finally got to order my car last week, and they're talking 18 to 22 weeks to be able to
Right.
get it. So they, to build it. So
Yeah.
I'm understanding. And that's why I wanted to ask you about that. So are you saying that you all talked about looking to see if it's in the budget, but we're going to do it tonight?
That
He's
we
gonna-
can't,
Yeah, he's gonna change the motion to reflect the fact it needs to be in the FY '23 budget to order it. So we're gonna have to leave it off consent agenda.
All right. Well, so yeah. All right. So I just want to make sure we bring it back tonight. I don't
Right.
want us to get
He's
into
gonna
an issue
modify
where
the
we can't-
motion.
where we can't get these vehicles. Okay. All right. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
I apologize for stepping out, but that happens. Okay, let's move on to D2. This is the South Dogwood Street Sidewalk Project. Tom, go ahead.
All right, we talked in the retreat about traffic calming, but we didn't really talk in the retreat about this potential project, and there's really two of them, and I'm not sure that they're together, but we went out and met with the guys from the school system back when the building was under construction at Villa Rica Elementary. And one of the things that we observed was there was an issue with the sidewalk and some trees right there on Dogwood on the east end of the parking lot. And so what we would like to do really are two different projects. We would like permission to spend the money to improve that sidewalk, not just because of the construction of the building and it being new, but if you remember the Path Foundation Walking Trail plan, a leg of that is on South Dogwood, right, coming out of North Dogwood under the tracks. So I'd like to go ahead and do that. And then there's another issue that we have that's going to come up in the budget, which is why it's not on here, and that is there's a wooden footbridge over the creek right there, sort of east of the ice machine, that needs to be reconstructed, and we would make it match this width. So we're going to talk about that, I think, maybe in the next week or so. So anyway, we'd like permission to go ahead and start working on this and
All right.
improve that whole look there in front of the school.
Council, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah,
All right, Mr. Carter.
what you're saying is this is only for the redoing of the sidewalk
Right.
to widen the sidewalk.
Right.
Okay.
All right, anybody else? Ms. McPherson?
just that I'm glad we're doing it. Anytime we're improving or adding sidewalks is a good thing, and especially over there. I've walked that area, and of course, we have the school there. So I'm glad to see it.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, any objection to making this consent number 4? Okay, that's what we'll do. D3, electronic message boards for Mirror Lake Boulevard and Punkintown Road. Who's doing this? Tom, go ahead.
So this is another Bobby item. He did the homework, but he's on vacation this week, which I think if you only take 1 week of vacation, you definitely take it during council meeting week. So that's, you can tell Bobby's been here a while. I have asked him to get a couple of sets of prices. One was to rent a sign board that we could put facing south on Mirror Lake Boulevard, there near the drugstore before you get to Connors, and then another one facing the other way. I guess that's sort of north there at Punkintown 61. But the rental price was just didn't make any sense, because I don't know about y'all, but I'm sort of feeling like this is a permanent addition to the city. Is that how I should be looking at this?
I suspect it is.
It
Sure.
feels permanent to me, right? So renting doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And in fact, maybe we need to have a "You're not welcome to Villa Rica" sign, a permanent monument sign with an LCD in it. I don't know. We may have to come up with something new. But anyway,
let's not do that.
36.6 for the pair. You know, it's a lot of money, but I think it will move us a step closer to where we want to be with the way that we're signing in both ends of that road. So this is what it's going to cost us if we want to go that route. And I recommend that we do it and see what kind of result we get.
Yeah, and this was part of what I talked about a month or so ago, or I don't remember when it was, when we talked that we had the public sort of town hall with regard to these trucks on Punkintown Road and how we might use messaging to try to communicate. So I think that this is something we should try. Mr. Carter.
Okay, is this one of those signs like they have on the highway that goes overhead and puts out messages, or is this on the side of the
It's
road?
on the side.
But it is programmable from what I understand, so
Right.
we can say you're not welcome here.
No,
So.
no through trucks, take Highway 78 or whatever it's
Yeah,
going to
trucks
say.
prohibited, you will be fined, okay.
All right, Ms. McPherson.
And you have to make sure it doesn't get hacked, because we had a teenager do that in South Florida one time, hacked one of the signs right in downtown. It was kind of funny. But I do have a few questions. So you need to keep that wherever it has access locked. And in this case, I think we can even do it remotely. Okay, so I had a few questions because it is a significant expense. Upkeep and maintenance cost. It's like anything you buy, you kind of want to know, well, what's involved with maintaining it long-term and that sort of thing. Is there some sort of regular ongoing cost? The other thing I wanted to know is the trailer separate? It seems to be showing it with the trailer. Made it appear that the trailer is all part of it. And I also wanted to know, as far as the investment, do we see ourselves using it elsewhere? It appears to be portable. If we had men working on a particular highway and we want to slow down, minute work, whatever, because it does get your attention more than just one of those little orange signs. If you could see even other uses for it if we needed it. And lastly, so that'll let them know you're not supposed to be here. Lets them know ahead of time. Okay, so I by Family Dollar, just prior to that is where you're saying the first one would be. And the other one would be where are you placing that? Because that would be coming off of Dallas Highway.
Up near the roundabout, near the cemetery,
Okay,
so that you can see it from the roundabout
so it'll make it obvious to
before
them,
you turn.
not to make, okay.
Yeah, the trick is to catch them before they get on the road.
Okay, so from Dallas Highway, correct, I know, it does
Really,
no
at
good if
Punkin-
they've already turned, there's nowhere to go.
At the roundabout, you really want one coming from Paulding and coming from the hospital, right? And that says no right turn, no left turn.
Yeah, but do they ever
But we're only gonna
come
do
from the
one.
hospital and turn that way?
I think we have some that come down Old Stone,
Oh, well, that's
right?
possible.
So, I mean, if they come up 61, there's nothing to stop them from turning there.
Okay,
I don't know. I wouldn't think that's where, I would think most of them come from.
Yeah,
Paulding, from the
primarily
Paulding side.
Dallas. I'm not over there to watch Rockmart. We do get some complaints now and then of trucks getting on Rockmart. I think they're probably coming up and ending up near Happy Valley or something
We
like
could
that.
put it on 61 before you get to the Dollar General that says, no through trucks to the left.
That's my questions.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, Ms. McCoy.
You were saying about the renting, like how many, for the 36,000, how many months could we rent these?
It was two a month, right? So 9 months.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, this doesn't.
It was less than a year.
Yeah, the math just don't work.
Yeah, that's what I was just checking.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All right, Ms. McPherson.
And you feel like this size is sufficient? I couldn't visualize it. I mean, I looked at the pictures, but you feel like the size is.
Bobby did all that, so
Yeah.
we'll verify that before we get into it. But
Bobby, who's on
to
vacation.
go back to your mobile question, I think these are mobile, but like I said, this feels like a permanent addition to the city to me. Because how is this ever going to go away? The need for this, I just don't.
Yeah, I guess the circumstance could arise where you, in some sort of an emergency situation, wanted to move them, but I wouldn't think of it that way. I would think that these are here and they need to be there all the time, because if they're not, they sort of defeat the purpose of putting them over there.
Yeah, one of the things that I had Hunter look at was to go back through the tickets that we've issued, and he told me that he had, when he went back and looked, that there's no incident where we have ever ticketed somebody more than once.
I remember you
Right,
telling me
and
that.
so
That was,
it's not like we're going to do this for a while and the word's going to get out. This is going to be a problem forever, right?
and this is just.
And that's why I was joking about maybe building a monument sign and putting an LCD there, like at the mill. But I mean, that's pretty much what we need.
Well, I can tell you, if it's the one like it's at the mill, it ain't worth anything, because you can
Well,
barely read that
yeah.
thing.
That's
So
true.
if
Okay,
that's
well,
what it
I
is-
take back the mill part. When we've got a newer one at the library, I
Yeah,
mean,
okay. All right, I get
we
it.
can do
Mayor.
that.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. McPherson.
Sorry. I thought I wrote down all my questions, but another one I didn't. Okay, so they're coming off the highway. They see the one by Family Dollar, but at least from listening to a trucker that talked to me 2 years ago about this, they're already off the highway, but there's nothing directing them where to go. So it still wouldn't hurt, even if it wasn't electronic, to tell them where to go. And
Yeah, tell them to go to 78 if they're.
yeah, I'm not
turn
talking
on
about for
Connors.
eternal damnation, not that, but the direction to take the truck. I'm sorry.
Could you clarify what you meant by that?
About telling them where to go was where to take their truck.
I'm just, that's based on what we talked about yesterday.
Can we put that
Let me
on
clarify.
consent?
I didn't want to, yeah, hold on. Okay, are you
Don't take
finished?
that wrong. Yeah.
All right. Let's, so is there any objection to making this consent number 5? Okay, good. Let's move on to D4, considerations of adding speed humps as traffic calming devices on Cleghorn and South Dogwood Street. I guess this was Bobby's as well.
Yeah, this is really why he's on vacation.
I believe it.
For this.
Go ahead.
All right, so at the retreat, what we encouraged council to do was to go ahead and vote on traffic calming based on what you want to do. I think Matthew probably summed it up when he said, look, let's do it and see what kind of response we get. And if it's positive, then great. And if it's negative, then we respond to that. So I think Bobby's got some information in here about all the studies and stuff, but I mean, I think it's just a council decision at this point. Let's try it and see what happens.
Okay, so Danny pointed out to me earlier today that maybe in the motion, they're talking about 2 speed humps on South Dogwood Street and 1 on Cleghorn. Is that correct? Is there something that some of us are missing on that? Was there going to be 2 on South Dogwood?
That was what Bobby understood.
Well, there's not really a long enough space for 2 on between South Chandler and South Carroll Road. There's not enough space
If
in
you
it.
want to change it to 1, then let's
I would think
start
you
with
would need-
1 on each.
With Cleghorn is a continuation of Anderson, so I would think you would need 2 over there, maybe.
Yeah,
Not-
the problem with the problem with Cleghorn is the timing, because that whole road's going to get rebuilt, right? So if we put in the speed hump now, we're going to just take it up and have to install it again.
Yeah, but it's getting rebuilt when?
It's part of what we're doing in the TAD with the apartment complex and the water line and the sidewalk.
Okay, so the timing on that one,
It's
less than 12
I mean,
months.
we've already got it
It's in the
engineered.
12-month range.
Yeah, it's
Can I go
already
ahead and address a
designed.
few things having to do with this?
Okay. Let me do one thing first, though, because I want to try to clarify that. So I guess there would be no problem in leaving the 2 speed humps there, and if there was a decision made not to do 2, I mean, I just don't want to get to modifying the motions unless there
Yeah,
was
that's
a
fine.
real reason to do it, number one. Number two, so really these come about, I think, from Miss McPherson on the South Dogwood and Miss Marchman on Cleghorn. So were you thinking 1 on Cleghorn? Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. So I wouldn't see an issue with that, but let me recognize Miss McPherson for a minute, because I know she wants to make some comments on this.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that will help us going forward, because these will probably not be the only ones that ever go in, just like we're going to get roundabouts and everything else that have to do with moving traffic and at the same time slowing it down. I went ahead and drove both roads again yesterday to refresh my memory, because Cleghorn desperately needs sidewalks too. So I know the apartments will put in sidewalks, but even when I went over there, there's no place for people to walk. And it's a dangerous road to walk on because of the way it does this. So it's extremely dangerous for pedestrians. So there's a sidewalk on one part, and then there's a little bit somewhere else, and then there's nothing in between. So long-term, that needs a lot of help over there with that. Also, I originally got these put in the budget. I think it was like 2017. It's taken us this long. I mean, it's been a battle. If I were Bobby, I would have missed too. Do you know we delayed this by a month because he was going to be out last month, and so we could have handled it, but that's okay. I'm glad it's working out the way it is, but I will say this, and some of the arguments against it was saying that Cleghorn did not qualify because it did not reach that. I'm not going to get in the weeds on this because it's not necessary. It didn't reach that 85 percentile. Here's the thing. The requirements in the ordinance are for citizen-initiated speed bumps, humps. We can do whatever we want as long as it's legal. So we can request them as the governing body with a consensus anywhere we desire them, 85 percentile or not. And just to give you one example, because I want you to, this is the one part I do want us all to understand. Cleghorn, who does not qualify in a 1-week span, could have 1,031 cars at least 10 miles over the speed limit. Some of them, many of them 20, 25, up to 30 and higher over the speed limit there, and they still wouldn't qualify. That one road could have over 1,000 vehicles exceeding the speed limit by at least 10 miles per hour, often higher, and they don't qualify for a speed hump. So that, according to the ordinance, that the citizens have to go through to initiate it. So I just want to, because if you've been on that road, you would understand why it can be a real fun, curvy road to drive quick. I won't get into the others, and since Bobby's not here and we're not fighting about this, we don't need to address what the arguments were on inconvenience or that there could be more pollution with having a speed hump. So I'm just glad to see it move forward.
I didn't know there were arguments about pollution or, I mean.
You didn't read your
This
packet?
must be well above my pay grade. I guess I didn't read it word for
It
word.
was from Bobby, yeah.
So let me say, I've long supported these traffic calming devices inside of neighborhoods. I do think that it's troubling to try to put these on these open roads where they really have through traffic and on this incline. But I say all the time that I'm not an expert on things that I'm not an expert on. And I have resolved myself to say, similar to, I guess, what Matthew said, which is, if it's going to be the will of the council, then let them put them up. But when you go back and read through this packet, you clearly see that there are a host of reasons why staff is recommending a denial on it. And I don't think the least of which is that you don't even know if the public who will be most impacted by these, the residences so close to these, are going to even want it, or if they're going to complain, which has happened before and they've been taken up. Now, I'll just talk a little bit about the ordinance that Ms. McPherson's talking about, because she's exactly right. That the requirements for the speed part of that are, they're excessive. It would be almost impossible to get one approved through that initiative. But for me, the initiative was more about that you went to all of the neighbors and got these folks to agree on it and say that they wanted to do it. And then I thought we could bring it to council and bypass this whole speed study that gets done out there, because that is cumbersome. I mean, it's almost impossible to get done. I remember going through this before. So I'm not going to oppose this. I just wanted to make those comments. We will let the council agree on this if they do, and see how it goes. I mean, I hope it accomplishes what the goal is, because certainly the goal here, the intent is good. But sometimes intent doesn't pan out. So we'll see what happens. Is there any objections to making this consent item number 6?
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Carter.
Because thing says it's going to install 2 speed humps on South Dogwood. That doesn't give them leeway. It just says put 2 of them on there. So I don't think that's the case. I think there's something not quite right about trying to put 2 in
I
that
think
short
that
span.
may have been a mistake, because on
So
Dogwood,
if we tell them, if we use this motion, which would the consent item would do, he would put 2 speed humps on the short.
Well, I would say
section.
this, Mr. Carter, I just try to keep it so we can get to a consensus as best as possible. This doesn't also tell you where they're going to be. And if they go out there and do their line of sight or whatever, they may figure out they can't do 2 anyway for some reason.
They would have to
Just
come
as we
back
talked
to us.
about.
Anyway.
They would have to come back to us because we told them to put 2.
Look,
Well, I don't think
change it
it's-
to 1 and have Elisa change the packet tonight, you still put it on consent.
okay.
It
All
will
right,
stay on
well-
consent as 1 and 1.
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes more sense, because
Okay.
if you've driven South Dogwood between South Chandler and South Carroll.
Oh, no, I agree with you. I walk that to school every day.
Yeah.
I lived on
And
South
I've talked to
Carroll.
some of the residents on there, and they do want it.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
that's the stretch, because then there's a stop sign
All right.
further down, and then there's one when it hits, is at Westview. But as far as citizens even wanting them or not wanting them to, I think we also have to consider that we put stop signs where we believe they're necessary. We put stop lights where we think they're necessary, because it's our job to make sure the streets are safe. And when it comes to the complaints, I agree if it's people that live there, but if the people complaining are the people who don't live on the street with their children, their pets, themselves, and the people that are using it as their shortcut and want to speed through are complaining, I don't care if they complain. They don't live there. They're cutting through on that street and they're driving too fast, and then they complain that there's a speed hump. This is for the protection of the people that live and walk on that street. Plus anybody else driving up the street when someone else is going 45 on a 25. It endangers the other vehicles. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Alyssa, would you change that motion to be 1 and 1? And then, is there any objection to making that consent number 6? Okay. All right, so we'll have that in the packet tonight before we actually vote on it. All right, utilities. John Bain, upgrade all existing Scada units in the distribution system to cellular service. Aaron, are you doing this? Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I try not to do this too often.
I understand that. I understand that. Go ahead.
Okay, so we monitor and control all of our system distribution tanks and our, sorry, what?
Lean in there some.
Y'all couldn't hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
It's on the recording better. If you
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's
All right, so we monitor all of our stuff through Scada. All of our stuff it has old radio equipment. Anytime there's bad weather, the chance actually trying to get Xyle Technology to upgrade all of our stuff from the radio units and the old Ether Logitech control board stuff to cellular at the cost of $65,852. as I said, the impact are, Eric and I have actually found ourselves in the last couple of months, we had a couple of different instances where our main control hub at the Mirror Lake tank, I had to go over there and reset it a couple of times, and so he has stuff that he can't control when that happens. I have stuff that I can't control when that happens. And this last time, it actually took us a little while longer to get it fixed and to get it back up and running like we need it to. So yeah, and anytime we have to do that, especially on nights and weekends, we're accruing overtime and stuff like that, having to control the things that we need to control. So we're recommending upgrading all of our stuff to the cell.
Okay, council, do you have any questions? Mr. Carter?
Okay, I'm going to jump forward to number 3 item, because in number 3 item where you're installing the package 6 of 6,
That's his.
yeah, that's the last of the
All right,
packages.
Eric, would you come on up?
Okay,
Mr. Carter brought this up earlier, so let's just try to take this at the same time.
yeah, and the item 3, where we're approving installation of the last 6, which is the 6th package.
That is correct, for the last 6 of the lift stations.
Okay, it says you're upgrading to the newer cellular capability. So are some of them cellular and some of them not cellular? All the ones we've done before are not cellular, and just last package is cellular? What's
So
going on?
this whole pack is the lift stations is cellular. All of it is, the new models are the cellular ones.
Just this last package is going to be cellular, and we got to upgrade all the ones before it?
Yeah, the ones that were upgraded before that I came to council and asked for is the cellular upgraded ones as well too. So this is the ones that I'm asking for today are the same as the other ones I was asking previously.
These are just the last phase of it.
Yes.
So we're almost done. If
So-
you approve these 2 things today, then when they get done, everything will be on cell and off of radio.
I'm just trying to clarify, because this item 3 does specify that it is going to be the newer cellular capability.
And that is correct. It will be the newer, it will be the
And
new.
that includes the money to do that in that last item 3. There's money in there for doing that.
Yes, there's money in there to do the last 6 of this lift station.
So
of these
I'm
lift
asking, did the first 5 packages we approved they're not cellular? Is that,
No, they are cellular.
so why are we having to upgrade them?
No,
This is the next package.
Aaron's part's not related. It's the same thing, but it's for water instead of sewer.
Oh, is that what the difference is?
Right, Aaron's is water tanks, the water plant, Cowan Lake.
Yes, sir.
So this
Right.
is a different set of,
It's the same technology change, but it's a whole different set of facilities.
it's on the sewer side instead of the water
Yeah,
side.
Aaron's is on the water side. and
Okay, that
Eric's
makes,
is on the.
that makes it clearer. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, if there are no more questions, then is there any objection to making this consent number 7? Okay. All right. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Eric, come on back up. Utilities, E2 West Plant Station Pump Repair. Go ahead, Eric.
So this is for the influent pumping station at the West Plant to repair pump number 1. This is our most vital lift station in the city. As of right now, we have 2 working pumps down right there. With this pump being repaired, it'll bring it back to the proper operating of 3 pumps. Each day, 1.1 million gallons is pumped through that lift station. So this is very important to get this repaired and operating efficiently and corrective as soon as possible.
All right. Are there any questions for Eric on this item? All right. If there are no questions, is there any objection to making this consent number 8? It's easy, isn't it, Eric?
Getting there.
When we don't have a clue what you're doing over there, it's,
We're fixing stuff.
well, and that's what we're doing this under the heading of.
I appreciate it.
very
You get a lot
controversial.
of leeway there.
I
All
do
right.
appreciate it.
Let's do number 3, E3, lift station supervisory control and data acquisition SCADA upgrade. Go
So-
ahead.
This is for the final set for the lift stations, for the upgrading of 6 lift stations. This is the cellular, and at this point, getting this, we actually just had another 6 that the council approved last week, operating at 100%. Staff is still learning it and helping out tremendously with catching alarms, as I said in the past. But the investment is helping out tremendously in the wastewater department with communications and staff being able to access and communicate with all the stations without actually having to physically be there. So this will be the final set of upgrade for the lift stations.
All right, very good. Any questions? See what I mean? All right, is there any objection
Yeah.
to making this consent number 9?
To your point, though, this is not new to us. I mean, we know this is coming down. We're fixing stuff. We talk about this during the retreat. If you don't fix these pumps and you don't get them upgraded, people don't get their water and sewer doesn't leave your house, and it's kind of important. So it's not controversial, and plus the fact we usually see it coming because we've been doing this. We're just getting to the other one. So thank you
Go ahead,
for fixing
Tom.
it.
Mayor, I think it would be interesting for Eric to comment on the amount of weekend call-ins that we've gotten during the summer compared to the first 4 or 5 months of the year.
Yeah, I understand that's dropped dramatically.
It has.
Go ahead.
So, especially when I first started here, it was even weekends, even nighttime on weekdays. I'm talking 1, 2, 3 in the morning, constantly. Whoever was on call, people that weren't on call, it was almost guaranteed. Like at least once a night, somebody was coming in to either a simple reset or it's something where we're in there for hours on top end, either having to physically do some work or try to get a contract out there as soon as possible. But after the tons of times of approving the pumps getting repaired and installing this new Scada and everything that y'all have approved, which we really appreciate, has helped tremendously, where it's almost to the point maybe I would have to say once a week, if sometimes not even at all, throughout the whole week or weekend, staff is getting called in, and I know staff appreciates that, so I know much they're happier about that. But it has always, to be honest with you, 2 plants, 32 lift stations, there's always going to be something that needs to be fixed, but as long as we stay proactive like we've been doing, we're not going to be called in as near as much as what we used to be.
Good deal.
One question.
All right. Go ahead.
These SCADA systems alert you if there's a problem at the lift station. Is that what's going on? They alert you and you can solve the problem maybe through the cellular service?
Exactly. So sometimes with the Scada too, that with this newer Scada compared to the older Scada, it will actually send us more. Before, the old Scada would kind of be a basic alarm, and you really don't 100% know what you're getting until you get out there. This is more in depth now. That'll send you a more explaining of what's going on out there. So sometimes, since it is a 2 pumping system, we can get away with, okay, whatever the problem may be, we might be able to get away till we all come in the morning at 7 in the morning. Before, we didn't know if we can or can't. It was just we have to go in and check it. But there is times now, because Scada communicates better, that we could go, okay, we can push this off until the morning and fix it as soon as we get in the morning. So definitely more advanced communication between the
Okay.
staff.
All right. Any objection to making this consent number 9? Okay. Thank you, Eric. Jennifer, come on up. F1, Low Income Household Water Assistance Program Agreement. Go ahead.
Good morning. This is just asking for renewal of this agreement. We have received over $60,000. It is a state-funded program that's ran through the Department of Family and Children's Services. They vet the applicants based on income, all the other credentials that they have to have, or the qualifications they have to have assistance for their water and sewer bill. And then they apply with either, like I said, DFACS. On the Douglas side, it's Talatuna, and on the Carroll side, it's Community Action for Improvement. They do all the vetting. They then send the money to us, and then we apply it to the accounts. And this is just a renewal of that agreement to continue with this to
Right.
help families.
Okay, council, anybody have any questions on this? All right. I think we've seen this a few times before, so it's helpful. All right, is there any objection to making this consent number 10? All right, let's go to F2, fiscal year 22 budget amendments, numbers 305 through 311. Go ahead.
The first budget amendment that's being requested is just 100% grant reimbursement from Three Rivers. It is for a My Senior Center software program that they paid for. or we paid for. They then sent us a check for $3,900, and this is just amending the budget so that it's budget neutral. And the second set of budget amendments is just, as you know, I've been reporting every month that hotel motel tax is coming in more than what we projected. So we need to go ahead and amend the budget for what we think we're going to be receiving for 3 months. Because they're about 2 months behind, or we run in about 2 months in arrears. And some of that money goes into the general fund, some of that money goes to the CVB, and then we also set money aside for project development.
Okay. Council, any question on any of these budget amendments? All right, is there any objection to making this consent number 11? All right, thank you, Jennifer. Okay, we're going to go under city manager here. Item number 1, temporary signage for a taste of Villa Rica.
Lisa, you gonna do that?
Are you going to do this, Alyssa?
Nancy, you want to speak?
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
I am representing the Evening and Golden City Lions Club, and what we are asking for is to be able to put up 6 4x4-foot signs and 25 18 by 24-inch yard signs. We will get permission from the property owners and business owners to advertise. We would ask to have them start on Monday, the 19th, and we will pick them all back up on October 3rd.
Okay. This is an item that comes before the council pretty much every year. I mean, it may not have come in 20, I can't remember, but this is pretty standard practice. Council, do you have any questions for this on this item? Okay, is there any objection to making this consent number 12? All right. Thank you, Dr. Mims. Okay, G2, set dates for the 2022 cleanup week. Who's got that?
Duke's actually, but so each year now for several years, maybe not the whole time I've been here, but we've been doing our annual cleanup week in the fall, and we have tried to time it so that it occurs after Keep Carroll Beautiful does an event. And so this time we're recommending the week of the 17th of October, and traditionally we set aside the Wednesday of that week as the day that will help seniors to remove appliances or whatever they're trying to get rid of, even if we have to go onto the property to their front or back porch and bring it to the street. We're recommending that again this time. So the week of the 17th for the entire event, Wednesday for Senior Day, we are having the resident sign a waiver when we go onto the property, like we've been doing. So this is pretty much just a repeat of what we've done in the past.
Okay, any questions?
Question.
Mr. Carter.
On the designated day, October 19th, to pick up appliances, do they have to call in and get on the list?
Right. Yeah, they have to tell us, or we wouldn't know. But
I know.
Yeah,
you don't go around looking for.
No, but as long as they tell us, I mean, yeah, we're not real.
I just want to make sure they understand that if they want to get an appliance moved out, they need to call and get on the list.
Most people don't know, and we've got to advertise that between now and then.
Okay.
So we'll put it on social media, and we'll put it in the newsletter as well.
For all the seniors that do social media.
Well, they do, though.
Some do.
Didn't it say it's going in the utility bill, though, too?
It has in previous years.
Everybody,
Okay.
I thought I saw that.
Jennifer's shaking her head.
Yeah,
yes.
and everybody gets that, even if they don't do social media.
Yeah, also in the regular.
Who puts it? Ken,
Villa
you put
Rica.
it in the newspaper? Yeah,
All
so
right.
we'll put it out there multiple places and hope, but tell people, right? I mean, just, tell folks, especially if you know somebody that's got something.
Is there any objection to making this consent number 13? All right. Let's go to G3, Resolution of Support Reconnecting Communities Pilot Program Grant Application and 20% Match Commitment. This is Chris. Oh, there he is. No.
No.
How about if I turn it on?
You have to turn it on. These are real finicky. If you don't turn them on, they don't work.
This is a revised grant from this year's earlier raised grant for segment 1 of the Mirror Lake Connector. We were not successful in being selected for the raised grant. This is another opportunity in the form of the Reconnecting Communities pilot program. It's a $6,400,150 project in total. We're
Can you do that number again? No. That was strange.
$6,400,150. No,
better.
That was.
Did I get that
sounds
right?
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's a big number. You know, I was trying to eclipse the water guys.
He's not in finance.
No.
I get that.
So it's a grant for $5,120,120
Okay.
with a match from the city at $1,280,030. And this is a federal grant application. That match represents a 20% match. Again, this is just another attempt at having the Fuqua portion of the connector subsidized through a federal grant program.
All right. Very good. Council, you have any questions on this item? All right. Hold on. All right, Miss McCoy.
Was the match mandatory, and was it at 20%?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Miss McPherson.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for going after these. I know some of them, you usually tell us, listen, this one's a long shot. Maybe we have a better chance at this one. But I see what you're putting out, and I see the reports you're sending us, and these are not easy to apply for. And I've seen what you've put together, the pictures, the arguments, and everything else, and it's got to take a lot of work. And all I can say is we've already got $1.7 million on one, right? And so I know all these won't come through, but thank you, because the reports are excellent. I mean, I realize I'm not the professional on the other side deciding who gets this and who doesn't, but at least based on what I'm seeing, I appreciate it. Thank you.
We got $1.1 million on another one.
Yeah, see.
On the LCI, right? What, $1.1 million?
Not officially.
Well, unofficially.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay. All right. So, any more questions? All right. Any objection to making this consent number 14? All right. Let's move to the next one, Chris. Resolution of support, railroad crossing elimination, grant application, and 20% match commitment. Go ahead.
Correct. This is the Railroad Crossing Elimination Program, which does not necessarily involve the elimination of a railroad crossing. It actually includes safety enhancements to existing railroad crossings. Now, if we look at the north-south Carroll intersection with 75 and the railroad tracks, there's nothing there for pedestrians. I mean, it's completely unsafe. There's no sidewalks. Basically, the way the sidewalks are configured, they put you out into the street to cross over. So this is what I'm very passionate about. It's also a matter of fixing or replacing the mid-block pedestrian crossing at South Candler in 78, which is asphalt dive into some concrete stairs into the road. I mean, it's very unsafe. This would replace that with a ramp switchback that would be ADA compliant. It also would include sidewalks with decorative brick inlays on the north side of 78 from South Carroll to West Montgomery, as well as put decorative fencing and retaining walls to prevent more cross-track pedestrian access. So it's something I'm very excited about. I've been in contact with the National Association of Railroads, and or the National Railroad Association, I think it's called. And they are going to be assisting us in lobbying our congressional delegation to give this grant maybe a little more traction.
All right.
So it is a lesser amount of $584,458 for the grant, and a city match of $146,144. And this is very much consistent with our LCI and plans for our downtown streetscapes.
All right. Any questions? Yes. All right, Ms. McPherson.
So Chris, do you consider this a long stretch one? Or, I mean, I know you can't exactly give us, we have a 50-50 chance, but what's this look like, especially involving our delegation? And is there something else we can do as far as lobbying our own delegation on this?
The traditional requests for support letters that go out. This one is due, I believe, in mid-October, and so I'm constantly fishing for letters. So this week I'm going back out to go after the GOSP letters, get those wrapped up. That project's ready to send out. The Reconnecting Communities grant, I think I've sent those out already, and I'll have to check, and I think I've sent the railroad ones out as well. So just that.
Because I have something in my inbox that I know I have for homework. Is that for this one? I'm trying to remember.
I can't remember.
Letter of support. Okay, well, I've got it there, and it has a deadline. I'll get it.
Yeah.
I will get that to you. But this would be it seems like we say everything's a game changer, but DDA, we should have a party if we get any of this, because it's horrible down here for pedestrians. And I ran into a vendor, one of the vendors was from Hateville yesterday. And have y'all seen the SketchUp on have you seen the overlays and the pictures Chris has put together on this? Because I didn't make the Hateville trip to see the way they put the fencing along in the railroad. They should be happy. Norfolk Southern should be happy because there's less likely for us to cause a problem for them. But this would be just wonderful because we've needed this for years.
Yeah, I'd say as far as the likelihood of this is definitely a more compelling grant, considering the amount of traffic and the history of crashes at that intersection.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right. You included those, didn't you? The chicken truck that got hit and everything else.
So compare with the Reunifying Communities pilot program. That's not that's kind of a one-timer, I think. I think we have a better chance of getting this one as far as the future impacts.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
All right. Is there any objection to making this consent number 15? Okay. All right. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right. These next two items were items that really were going to be taken up in more detail in the regular meeting tonight, and I don't mind saving those. Do you want to? Okay. So we will take these other two items up in the regular session tonight. Let me go over the consent agenda, how I have it. I'll read it off, and then at the end, I'll ask if there are any objections or corrections to this. Consent number 1 is the amendment to the special requirements for packaged distilled spirits licenses. Consent number 2, intergovernmental agreement for special local option sales tax distribution in Douglas County. Consent number 3, modification of Allied Plan document. Consent number 4, South Dogwood Street Sidewalk Project. Consent number 5, electronic message boards for Mirror Lake Boulevard and Punkintown. Consent number 6, considerations of adding speed humps as traffic calming devices on Cleghorn Street and South Dogwood Street. Consent number 7, upgrade all existing Scada units in the distribution system to cellular service. Consent number 8, West Plant Station pump repair. Consent number 9, lift station supervisory control and data acquisition, Scada upgrade. Consent number 10, low-income household water assistance program agreement. Consent number 11, fiscal year 22 budget amendments numbers 305 through 311. Consent number 12, temporary signage for a Taste of Villa Rica event. Consent number 13, set dates for 2022 cleanup week. Consent number 14, resolution of support, Reconnecting Communities pilot, RCP program grant application and 20% match commitment. Consent number 15, resolution of support, railroad crossing elimination, RCE grant application and 20% match commitment. Does anybody hear anything different or have any objections to those items? If I hear none, Madam Clerk, will you prepare that consent agenda? Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is public comment. I have two people who've signed up. I'll call you up, give us your name and address for the record, and we'll give you 3 minutes. Nancy Mims, you did what you needed to do? Okay. Michael Young? All right, come on up. Give us your name and address for the record. We'll give you 3 minutes.
Michael Young, 9634 Coastal Point Drive in Mirror Lake. My comment is to express my disappointment with the City Council on the intergovernmental agreement for special local option sales tax distribution with Douglas County. You're going to get over $8 million. It says $8,064,000, but we all know sales tax has been running higher than expected, so you're going to get over $8 million. And we didn't spend a dollar on recreation, on quality of life in Douglas County. And Douglas County is 41% of your residential tax base. You didn't spend a dollar. You got $750,000 allocated for Connors Road Park, but that's not going to finish the park. You got to put a road in, you got to grade it, you got to put a parking lot in, you put playground, a pavilion, grade a dog park, fence it before that's even usable for families. So 750 isn't going to cover that, and that doesn't talk about the trails. So I don't doubt that transportation and streets is important, or that infrastructure is important, or that public safety is important. But we couldn't find a single dollar to spend on quality of life in Douglas County. They've got nowhere to go in Douglas County to have a picnic and throw a football around. People don't do that at Pine Mountain. Yes, Pine Mountain is in Douglas County, but people don't go there for a picnic and to throw a ball around with their kids. So I'm disappointed.
All right, thank you. So that's the end of my list. Is there anybody here who didn't sign up who would still like to speak in public comments? Okay, I'll close public comments. I will say on your comments, I agree with you that there should have been something put in there for parks. I'm sure the consideration, the way this happened, it came in like, I'm telling you, I talked earlier about it. It was, I think I wasn't even in town. A number of phone calls were made back and forth, and they put that together. Still should have put something in there for parks. The only thing I will say is that there remains the $750,000 that will finish. Tom, can you move over just a little bit, because I was actually talking to him. But that money, this is the last year of collecting that money, and we've spent none of it in terms of the park money over in Douglas County. So all of that money will be collected as of this year and will begin to be spent over there. So it will address what you're talking about, but I know you're thinking about the longer term, the next SPLOST. Yeah, sure, I understand that. Yep. Tom, you want to make a couple comments?
So Carroll and Douglas are different. With the Carroll SPLOST, there's very little constraint. But with Douglas, the way that we do the IGA, there's some built-in structure to how the money is spent. And I wasn't here for the Douglas one last time, but I intentionally submitted something in an attempt to give me the most flexibility possible. And so what we asked for was money for two things that we knew we wanted to do, and then I just called the bucket with everything else in an infrastructure, which could be roads, sidewalks, golf cart paths, walking trails, water and sewer, buildings. I mean, so basically we've got more structure in the Douglas one still, but we're really not constrained terribly. So yeah, I agree that the word recreation is not in there, but I mean, when you talk about roads and sidewalks and walking trails and all that, I mean, we could knock a dent in some of the park stuff.
So
with-
there's some
with that.
flexibility there.
I feel like it, and David's gonna have to say yay or nay when we budget it, but I don't feel like we're as constrained as we were last time.
Right, yes, ma'am. Yeah, go ahead.
Just from, even though I'm not in Mirror Lake, I'm over right next to that whole area. There's a lot of people that live over there. And if it weren't for maybe one of the churches that lets kids use their basketball hoop and come by, and kids need stuff like that. And if it's not in the neighborhood, I've thought many times and had brought to my attention that it would be great to have a playground over there somewhere. There isn't one. Now, there might be one tucked in some neighborhood that they're allowed to use, maybe some little one. Some of them are even gated because they're for just a small segment of the subdivision. But as far as public use, it's extremely limited over there. So it would be nice to see something like basketball court, playground, and that sort of thing on that side of town.
Yeah, I don't know where we have much options for that kind of thing because the park is a passive park, but and we don't have a lot of even area in Douglas County, but I think we can enhance it the best we can. Ms. McCoy?
Hold on. Okay. I don't disagree with that. We need more quality of life over on the Mirror Lake side, but on the Mirror Lake HOA does have two playgrounds for the kids, and when my kids were really little, I used to take them there quite often. But we do need the walking trails fixed, and we need something else over there because everything else we have to go into Carroll County, which is fine. But I just wanted to reiterate that there used to be basketball courts as part of Mirror Lake, but for some reason they took them down way back when. But it's been a while since they've been in use. But the courts are still there, just no basketball hoops. I just thought I'd reiterate that.
I can address that.
Okay.
Part of the reason those hoops are gone is because they were only for who lived right in that subdivision, and if kids came from outside to play, that wanted to play that didn't live in the subdivision, then it was considered disruptive. So, but when it's public and out in the open, maybe they had some other problems, but when it's public and out in the open and for everybody's use, not just for who lives in a subdivision, then anybody in the city can be over there using it.
Okay, we've reached the end of the meeting.